Hello everybody, here we are today doing our second round series preview between the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers. So before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So of course we have to talk about how we got here, and we got here with the Boston Bruins having a pretty good season where they finished with 109 points, one shy of winning the Atlantic Division for a second straight year, before going on to the first round where they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, their arch rivals, in 7 games. It took overtime, but they were able to get the job done. As for the Florida Panthers, they were the team that had the extra point in the Atlantic as they won the division after making it to the Stanley Cup final the season prior, and they were able to beat their in-state rivals, the Tampa Bay Lightning, in 5 games, meaning we, of course, for the second straight season, get to see these two teams meet in the playoffs. So with that being said, what are some storylines to watch out for? So the first talking point is, can Jeremy Swayman continue to be that guy? In the first round against the Maple Leafs, he looked really good in the 6 games that he played in. He had the highest goals saved above average total in the league. Now granted, he did play more games than some other guys, but still had a goals against average below 1.5, had a save percentage above .950, and just looked incredible in that time, and was a huge reason this team was able to go on and win. I will say something that's kind of weird is out of the 4 regular season games that the Panthers played the Bruins, he ended up only playing 1 of those, so kind of not really sure what you're going to be getting with him. He allowed 3 goals on 21 shots, whereas Linus Ullmark ended up playing 3 other games against him, winning all 3 of those, and the worst save percentage that he had in that time was .933. So even if Swayman doesn't play well, theoretically Ullmark could go out there and have a good series, as he did over the course of the regular season. But again, Swayman has been playing so well lately that it's like, would you even make the switch if he had 1 bad game? Probably not, but you do have the benefit of having 2 goalies that are able to be really good. And I think the thing with Swayman that I'm really happy about for him is just seeing him grow as a player and get more and more experience in the NHL. This channel has been around for nearly 4 years. August will be the 4th anniversary, the 4th birthday, if you will. And I remember talking about him at the start of his career. To see him now where he's at the brink of possibly getting his team to a conference final appearance is just kind of cool. But I'm going to be honest here, somebody's going to have to be the man in net, as they're going to need good goaltending to win this series. Florida draws better offensive chances, they score more goals, and they are a team that, may have just maybe got out over their final 3 games in the postseason series last year, where they scored 15 total goals. Now, mind you, I'm sure at least one of those was an empty netter. Still, you're going to need Swayman probably, or Ullmark, either way, I really don't care, to have that good series if Boston wants to get on to the conference final. Now, the second talking point is whether or not Sam Bennett is going to be coming back for this series. Bennett is in his 3rd full season with the Panthers and seems to have found the perfect home for him. Now, he is getting a lot more minutes compared to when he was in Calgary and has seen 3 straight 40-point seasons. He's not a superstar, but he is a player that contributes for this team and plays well in the system they want to play. He's not afraid to play physical. He's not afraid to forecheck and all those things. And just kind of ended up in the right situation. Originally, when he got sent over from Calgary to Florida, I was kind of skeptical, but now with the team and how it's constructed, he really fits in. But unfortunately for this team, he did get hurt in the first round against the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 2, wasn't able to come back for the remainder of that series. But from what I found from the Miami Herald, from an article as of yesterday, as I'm recording this at 4 in the morning, it seems like Paul Maurice thinks he has a good chance of coming back in this series, which is going to be good because he was part of the Tkachuk and Verhaeghe line that played the most minutes out of any of their lines during the course of the regular season, from what I could find on moneypuck.com, and had good results in the time. Now, Anton Lundell did have good results as well in the playoff series that they had, something like 72% of the expected goals for percentage or something like that. Just a good round for him at 5-on-5 play. But if you have a line that has a lot of minutes together, that enjoys playing together, that is playing well together, and has, again, the chemistry that can kind of get them where they want to go in a playoff series especially, you'd probably like to go out there and reunite them. Now, I'm not going to be an expert here and say that I know what's going on, but I think a hand injury, barring something major, is something that he could probably go out there and play with, and I think at some point he will. And I'm going to be honest, I think that if he ends up, seeing the series go where it's 2-0 Boston or something like that, he would be likely to go out there and play. Again, they have other guys that can go out there and play and throw hits and things like that, but he still would be a nice piece to bring back, especially with him being part of a line with 2 guys that have made such an impact for this team in recent years. And the third talking point is who wins in Boston's defensive zone. This is, again, another weird talking point, probably the weirdest so far, but I look at this and I really was intrigued when I was looking at all 3 zones and their website, seeing the fact that the Panthers, again, we know, like to forecheck a lot and like to keep the puck in their opponent's defensive zone and just make life miserable for them. We talked about that in the Tampa Bay series. And the Boston Bruins were not particularly great at 5-on-5 of getting the puck out of their net. If they did rely on guys, it was going to be like Matt Grzelcyk, Charlie McAvoy to try to get the puck into the neutral zone or into the offensive zone. And I see this as a huge part of whether or not Florida could win this, and also a huge part as to whether or not Boston could win this. And the Florida Panthers were able to see guys like Barkov, Tkachuk, and Lawrence have good recovered dump-ins per 60, where they were going to go out there and just regain puck position. And then Eetu Listoinen, I know I said his name wrong, I always struggle with it, had the highest forecheck per 60 pressure in the league. I could be looking at that wrong again. It was like 2 in the morning when I started taking these notes, but I think I'm right. I didn't really see anybody in there and around him, so you're just seeing a lot of players that are going to go out there and try to regain possession, put a lot of pressure on you, and make life miserable. We've already talked about that, but it just comes down to me seeing some guys that aren't even just the role players. This isn't like the Blue Jackets in the day where they needed to recover a lot of dump-ins to be able to get zone time. This is a team that is seeing some of their stars do that, and they are able to score a lot of goals, thanks in part to that, getting goals off the forecheck. So there's that. And again, in all three zones, it looks like Boston was a team that relied on getting offense from building it up through the defensive zone. So you can kind of see a problem here if Florida is able to pin them in. And I completely get that. Looking at this team too, they scored 7 goals over their final 4 games. Again, I might be wrong there with the numbers, against the Maple Leafs, so you could see a bit of an issue. And Swayman has been good, Mark has been good against the Panthers. But if they are just able to keep the grade A chances coming, who's to say that something doesn't break here? So whoever wins in Boston's defensive zone likely wins this series. So overall, what are my thoughts on this series? I think it's going to be fun, and I say that in just about every series. But this one deals more with the fact that there was a huge upset last year where the Panthers ended up beating the Bruins. And the Bruins are angry about that. I know their fans are too, and that's okay, as Florida fans probably weren't expecting this, and they're probably expecting it demolished maybe with how the year went for them heading into the postseason, especially through those first 4 games. However, that is in the past, if you will, as Boston is now looking to use that moment from the past to propel them to the future, that being the conference final, something that they haven't made since, I believe, 2019, when they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. And you also have to think, too, the Panthers were not able to pick up a win in any of the 4 games that they played the Bruins in this year. A lot of close games, so we're going to see if something gets tilted here. And in terms of closeness, I think this series is going to be more hotly contested compared to last year, where especially early on, a lot of people thought that Florida was just going to be one of those teams where you throw out the rug and you step on them, and in that case, it was going to be Florida. This year, that should be different, and if Boston won in like 4 or something like that, my jaw would be down to the floor. So with that being said, who will I be picking for this series? I will be picking the Florida Panthers in 7 games. I do trust the situation in net for the Bruins, and in fact, I think they are in a better spot with it, but Bobrovsky's been able to show that he can be a hero come playoff time, and this team just is going out there and trying to make the most of this. I trust their offense more. Boston's really hasn't impressed me at times this year. Their expected goals for percentage at all strength isn't amazing, and some of their defensive numbers aren't dominant or anything like that. They've had good goaltending. They've had some players that have been able to have a good season, and of course they're able to finish with 109 points on the year, but just some things stick out a little bit where you're a little bit worried about them. And I hate to use the whole mentality aspect where you say, oh, this team's got that winning edge in their mind, but Florida just seems like a team that's got that swagger. They got that attitude where they're going to strut into the building, they're going to strut into the garden, and they're going to win a game, and they're going to make life tough for you, and they're going to go and just do it again at home. Whereas Boston feels like a team where as soon as they are stuck in a bad spot, especially where they're down in a series or they are choking potentially a series lead, some of these guys disappear. And that's what I'm really worried about here. I'm not necessarily saying David Pastrnak, but you look at a guy like Marchand, he didn't have, I don't think, a single point for the last 3 or 4 games of that series. And my bigger concern at the end of the day is if Pasta and the Rat end up having a slow start to a series, or they have a bad series in general where they're not able to get on the board. Who do you trust to go out there and do it? Whereas for the Panthers, you have Barkov, Reinhart, Tkachuk. Verhaeghe's just going to score overtime goals because that's what he does. You have other guys too on this team that you can look at, even like Tarasenko. There are plenty of names to think of here that could be more of the safety valves. Not saying Boston doesn't have them, just saying that I'm more concerned if their stars don't perform. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this series? Who do you think will win and how many games? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.